Hey Banditos, Tux here, and today I'm going to show you how to solo legendary using this new hacked Heartbreaker hybrid skill build. Now, if you're looking for the build video, this is not that. I'll put a link for you here and in the description area below so you can check that short build video out. I'm going to talk you through each checkpoint on where your best cover is, which weapons to use, when, and who your priority targets are going to be. It took me 1 hour and 8 minutes to complete District Union Arena Legendary Stronghold solo using this Heartbreaker hacked skill build. I'm not going to edit out any footage, but I will be speeding up the footage between checkpoints to cut down on the video length. Also notice there are timestamps or chapters. That makes this easier to use as a reference as you play along. No, you don't have to play as aggressive as I do. I sort of just play with intention here, but if you want to hang back a little bit, by all means, do so. Notice where I place my turret. Now, sometimes if you throw it that far forward, it can get taken down pretty quickly. So the other good spot to throw it is right here on these tires. There's a dumpster sort of hidden here. And throw it on that, sort of towards one of the edges, so that way you can pick it up when you need to move it. You have the RPK and the TKB 408 as your primary weapons. Use the 408 when you're targeting reds or tanks or chungas. Use the LMG for everything else. So that means elites and veterans especially. Since your priority targets are the tanks and their engineers, that means you're primarily going to be using the 408 right when you kick off the fight. Now there's another set of dumpsters to my back left that's actually safer to play from. So if you're a more relaxed player, then fall back to that position. You're more guarded from explosives, and the only enemy that can flank you in that position are the tanks, which is why they're your priority targets. The greatest chance of you getting hit by a grenade and going completely down is within the first minute or so after you kick off the fight. I recommend keeping the grenadiers in the corner of your eye at all times. Make sure they don't have an angle on you. Notice I am moving around a lot, so displacing is a great way to avoid getting hit by grenades. As I mentioned, your priority targets are first the tanks and their engineers. Now, they're equally important to take down. If you got a clean shot on the engineer, take him first. But the tanks are utterly most important because they're the only enemy that can flank you. Once those targets are out of your way, then go for the elite grenadier. I don't take out the veteran purple grenadier until I'm ready for the next wave. One of the other reasons I'm moving around a lot is to pick up my trophies as they drop. That's like putting your skills on a burst little overcharge for 10 seconds. We're also picking up long-term skill damage as well, armor regen, and of course boosting our weapon damage, which is definitely helpful. When you're down to 3 or 4 enemies, it's time to push in if you have the confidence to do so. If not, then just hang back. If you do hang back, nothing really changes, except you really have to do a good job of tracking and taking down those drone operators. They will torture you to death. And managing your skills is key to your survivability. That means picking up or breaking your skill in anticipation of the next wave. The worst thing that can happen is both your skills or your most important skill is down when you have rushers headed towards you. You see, one of the reasons why hybrid skill builds are so clutch for solo legendary is because you got 2 skills that do a really good job of taking aggro. And if they're taking aggro, that means you're taking less damage. It also means you're putting out more damage because you can stay out of cover and shoot longer. So the chungas aren't that difficult. We have protection from elites to take a little bit of those stingers if we have to. But what's really important is that you're constantly laying down fire. Turret placement is also really important, but be aware of anybody who tries to get behind you. As you can see, there's a sniper back there, and sometimes there's a few grunts that also like to go back there. Okay, here we are at checkpoint 2. Now, this isn't too difficult, and it's actually pretty safe. You just need to know when to fall back if you have to fall back. Otherwise, no enemy can push up or flank or get behind you until you get to the chungas. Just get your skill out as fast as you can, and if you have a chance, throw an EMP grenade to prevent them from dropping to heal stations. Otherwise, focus on those technicians and the medics as a priority. Now, if you've gotten here, that means you've completed phase 1, which also means you have full 30 stacks of memento trophies on your backpack. You have more power, and you also have armor regen, so if you take damage, just sit and cover for a few seconds and you'll be fine. You'll notice your assault rifle does better at taking out tech, so use that when you have to. Heartbreaker is very, very strong. Notice all that bonus armor we're getting as well without even picking up trophies, which is really nice to have. So we're running the TAC laser pointer, so you don't have to get those headshots in order to pulse targets, which is giving you more damage and bonus armor. You want to make sure you have fresh skills and full ammo for when the chungas come. Notice where I placed my turret for the chungas. This is key. It's going to be a big advantage if the chungas aren't shooting at you the whole time as they're approaching you. That pins you down and keeps you from shooting them. So if you can use the turret and the drone to turn them around so that they show you their back, then you can wipe them out before they ever reach you. And if you have the chance, always break their chain. That will stop them in the tracks, which in turn is buying you more time to DPS them down. There's always a purple and a red healing station engineer that comes out with them. If you can take those guys out first, immediately, before they drop their healing stations, then you're going to have an easier time. Now, sometimes you're going to have to fall back. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. If you do, shoot from the left side of the doorway you entered this room from. You'll know you're in the right spot because the chungas won't be able to shoot you. Now, it looks like they're shooting at you, but none of the bullets will land. It's actually very easy to take them down in that spot. Checkpoint 3 is really easy if you get started right. Notice I'm throwing my turret over the fence and on a box before I even open the door. As soon as you open the door, pop your drone and immediately target the yellow rusher and then the two red rushers right behind her. You can blow up the gas canister to take out the guy on the turret. Take out any remaining grunt NPCs. There's probably a couple of red ones running around. After that, start pushing forward, moving cover to cover. Do not eliminate the last sniper until you get into the final position. Make sure your skills are fresh and deployed before you kill that last sniper. Once you do, the next wave will come at you. Your skill's gonna take all the aggro, so you got a lot of freedom back here in this corner. Focus on the drone operators first. Otherwise, the elite grenadier is your greatest threat. You're gonna have to put out a few shots to make sure you have in sync proc, but do make sure your skills do most of the work here, especially in the very beginning. There's two groups, and right when they spawn, the one that's coming from the hospital room on your right can actually shoot through the glass. You could also shoot back at them. This next checkpoint is actually pretty easy. It's just 2 warhounds. Make sure you're using your assault rifle and really go for those weak points. Focus on the purple warhound first and then take out the elite warhound. That's because you're wearing protection from elites. This next checkpoint is not as hard as it actually seems. Get your skills out as soon as you can and really focus on those drone operators first. There should be 3 of them. Otherwise, just don't let anybody get behind you. Now, there will be 3 total waves. The first wave that was there when you entered. The second wave is going to be 2 warhounds. The final wave is going to be a group of NPCs. Now, there's 3 key targets in that final wave. You need to make sure your skills are fresh for when that wave comes. Your priority target in that final wave is the purple veteran technician. If he puts his heal station down, then everybody else becomes harder to kill. Otherwise, it's the elite sniper who can 2-tap you to death. The last key target is the elite tank engineer. This last room is actually really simple if you follow this play out of my playbook. Note that I grabbed shock ammo from the last room. Also note where I'm placing my turret and where I am fighting from. Now sometimes I can get those rushers right as they're coming out of that door if I'm fast enough, but this time I missed them. Otherwise, you should be seeing the back of that chunga as he's coming at you. Okay, for this next checkpoint, you want to fight from the kitchen. Turret placement is important. It needs full visibility, especially for those enemies that make it into the hallway. So the Heartbreaker gear set and both weapons that we're using don't have a lot of burst damage associated with it. So that makes rooms like this really tough because the Heartbreaker gear set requires stacks. And we do get those stacks, but we also lose them as we're waiting for the next few NPCs to walk through that door. I've also been noticing since Title Update 15 that the drone isn't super responsive. What I mean is sometimes I send it out and it doesn't actually go. Either way, be prepared to fall back to the bathroom that you passed on your way into this room. With that being said, this might be a good room for that ACS or rock and roll shotgun to quickly build up those stacks since the enemies are coming in smaller spurts. Otherwise, your success is just knowing when to fall back. You should note there are 3 rushers in this checkpoint and 1 chunga. For this next checkpoint, I actually start off in the room. I put up my turret at a really high elevation and then kick off the fight. I focus on the rushers first, but you should note this is riskier. If you're less experienced with legendaries or more of a relaxed player, you should probably play this from the previous room from the very get-go. If you're gonna do that, just throw out a few shots to stir up the hornet's nest and then fall back. I'll show you a really good place to fight from here in a minute. Notice the blue metal box that I am fighting from. The stingers from the chungas can't penetrate this. Once you're in here, all you need to do is bait them in out of their heels. And of course, break their chain, then their chest, and their backpack. Remember, they can't get to you or behind you. They can only get a nice angle on you. As long as you're fighting from this position, you're all good. For this next checkpoint, you want to bait them out of their heels. Get your turret set up and make sure the drone stays in the same room that you're in. Get a good line of sight on the targets and start shooting as early as possible so that you can build your stacks and power as they're approaching you. This next checkpoint is a lot easier than you might think. The most important part is not to get taken out by a grenade from one of these crazy grenadiers. And if you're sticking inside this room like you should be, then that really shouldn't happen. So you're gonna open the door, get your turret out, send out your drone to those grenadiers, and stay inside this room. Pop out a few shots from time to time, but keep an eye on those grenadiers and their grenades. Other than that, it's really just skill management. There's going to be 2 rushers that come down ahead of the chungas, and you want to make sure your skills are fresh for them and the chungas so that they pull aggro. Now, the chungas are sort of easy. Now, usually I throw my turret out here by this ammo box, and when the chungas come in, they sort of just back towards me, so they show me their backs, and that makes them easy targets. You want to make sure you're at full armor because you're going to be in close quarters and possibly be taking some stingers. And if you're worried about them shooting at you, remember, just break their chains. It's going to be really easy because your guns are very powerful. This next checkpoint will be easy if you put your turret here at the turn. You only need to worry about the rushers. The rest are going to get picked up by your skills.
In need of backup.
Now, the garage can actually be very difficult, as you already know. There's lots of NPCs. There's 3 big waves with very difficult targets. The biggest reason why the room is very difficult is because of the angles. It's got very tough angles. They have ordnance that's able to get to you, but you don't have great line of sight on them. Notice I put my turret at a very high position. That gives the turret really good line of sight. It also makes it difficult for them to shoot it down. And for them to do so, they have to get out of cover and come to me. Your priority targets at first are, of course, the drone operators. Send your drone out to them to get them while they're in cover because they like to hide in the back. Otherwise, if you have good shots on the tank, then try to get those out of your way as well because they are able to flank you. You're most likely gonna have to fall back into the office from time to time, but do not get stuck in there. They can still send drones into that office and get you. You also don't want to stay in there because it'll make this checkpoint painfully long. Look out for the rusher that comes out with the second wave. After that, your new priority targets are going to be those healing stations. The third wave will bring the grenadiers, and of course, they're also priority targets because they can take you out by popping you out of cover or flattening you with a grenade. This last room is actually really easy, but the funny thing is I just died here in my solo legendary attempt right before this run. With the Heartbreaker hybrid, I find that the Warhounds are actually really easy and I can stay out of cover for a long time against them. You're going to get 2 Chungas in here as well in the third wave, and they're also really easy because they're big fat targets, huge, easy for you to get your stacks. Remember, stacks are both power and bonus armor, and you have protection from elites. So in this room, that makes the greatest threat your second wave, which is rushers. So what's going to happen is they're going to come rushing at you, right? And they're going to jump in this room. Then you're going to get another guy shooting at you from a distance or at an angle. I put my turret elsewhere in anticipation for the Chungas. But the reality is, because you're running solo, you should probably have it right here with you in the room. And that's why I'm struggling, but we make it anyways. Now that you've made it to the boss room, you're happy because if something goes wrong, you don't have to start all over from the beginning. But one reason you don't want to die is because you'll lose all your mementos, which means if you have to run this room twice, then the second time it's going to be more painful because you're going to start out without trophies. Until the boss drops down, there's only a few things that you really need to keep in mind. Otherwise, it's just kill everybody until he gets here. Grenadiers and snipers are your first priorities. In the next wave, it's going to be rushers and then drone operators. After that, it's healing station technicians first and then the medics. Now that part is important because they all tend to cluster in this one back corner. And so if you can throw an EMP grenade or anything to keep them from dropping to healing stations there, then that's going to delay them in dropping to healing stations as they're fighting your turret and drones or falling back. Besides the healing stations, it's really important that you keep those medics occupied or otherwise killed so you don't have to fight everybody twice. So once you disperse the group from dropping their healing stations there in the corner, from there it's just about finding good angles, protecting yourself, and using your skills. Once the boss drops, just try to keep away from him as you're eliminating the NPCs around him. When you're one-on-one with Aggro, it's going to be easy. Remember, you have 3 protection from elite mods that'll help you from the pulse. You're not immune, but you're still going to be left with probably around half of your armor. And then you have armor regen to get you all the way full again, so you won't be using too many of your armor kits. Make sure you have ammo, and then get some distance between you and him so that you can swap your skills. You want the Demolisher Firefly and the Riot Foam. You got powerful skill damage, lots of skill efficiency, and 6 skill tiers, so you're going to have lots of Riot Foam. Now you're going to throw out the Demolisher Firefly, and it's going to break his chain probably on the first toss. From there, as he tries to fix his gun, you're going to whip out your Riot Foam and break that animation. You're not trying to keep him foamed, you're just breaking that animation, which prevents him from fixing his gun. Pay attention to what he's doing and hit him with that Riot Foam at the very last second you can. If you do that, you will be buying time for your cooldowns and have all the Riot Foam that you need to keep him in an endless loop. Otherwise, be focusing purely on his backpack with your weapons. Once his backpack breaks, then focus fire on his head only. Note that when his backpack breaks, it will automatically fix his gun, so he will be able to shoot back at you then. No worries, just toss out your Demolisher Firefly. Shoot him in his head until he dies. Bandidos, the Heartbreaker skill damage build is absolutely amazing. The fact that you can solo legendary with it says it all. If you haven't seen the build video, now's your chance. Here's the link.